we've got an old friend. 504 or 350. She's got a freeze brand called 350 and an ear tag with 504.
When we first saw this cow a couple of months ago, she was in incredible pain, but remarkably, her foot looked okay. Until we removed the overburdening horn, and there was a huge ulcer hidden underneath. After the initial trim, we checked in on her a couple of weeks later to see how she was doing. This video is the story of all 3 trims, and how she's doing now. This is the Hoof GP.
And I won't let it rush when I see you dance, and the moment comes when I fall and time goes slow. I fall into you.
When we got this cow's foot up in the air the first time, it probably wasn't obvious to everybody what was wrong, but I instinctively knew there was something majorly wrong with that outer claw, and it wasn't long before we discovered exactly what that was. As you can see, it did look like it was in pretty good shape, and we started the trim as we always do. We balanced the claws and we made sure that the heights and angles were absolutely bang on before getting the knife out. With the very first swipe of the knife, we revealed exactly where the problem was, and we started to see just how serious this issue was. She had a huge ulcer hidden by all of that overburdening hoof horn. So, being as careful as we possibly could and taking our time, we removed all of the hoof horn that wasn't attached to the rest of her foot. That did take a long time because, as you can see, it's pretty extensive. The further we got through the trim, the more we revealed and realised just how far out of our foot that ulcer really was sticking. So we decided we were going to need a block. We cleaned up that inner claw, dried it off completely and attached a block before finishing the trim. Here you can start to appreciate how far down the ulcer is sticking. The ulcer is actually the corium, the part that grows the hoof horn, so we can't just cut it off or burn it out. If we did that, then yes, it might solve the problem in the short term, but hoof horn would not then regrow in that area and she could never be truly fixed. We made sure to remove every remaining shred of detached hoof horn so that it couldn't catch or hurt that ulcer, and to give it the best possible chance at a full recovery. This is a very extreme ulcer, and we don't usually see them as big as this, so we douse it with iodine in the hope that it'll shrivel up so that next time we visit her, she's in a much better way. After a little bit of a struggle in the shed to find her, she started to run away from us, but we persevered and we got her into the crush. I was only at the farm this day to check on her progress and see how she was doing, so I decided to use the farmer's crush instead of my own. When we got her in the crush, we lifted up her foot, and although she'd lost the block, she had definitely made quite a substantial amount of progress. She wasn't healed, but she was starting the healing process. The ulcer had indeed started to shrivel up, and although the block was gone, there was still a bit of height difference between the good claw and the site of the ulcer. So again, we went about removing that loose and detached horn, and we tried to make as big a height difference between the 2 claws as possible. This way we can get the weight away from the ulcer site without the use of a block. But to be honest, I wasn't sure if we were or weren't going to need a block at this stage. After a bit of deliberation and deciding upon, I decided that we could get a sufficient height difference between the 2 claws so that we could get the weight away from the ulcer site and allow the healing process to continue. So again, we trimmed away what we could and we made sure we left all that we could of that inner claw so that it was as high as possible. And as you can see, there was indeed a decent height difference, and when she left the crush, she was still pretty comfortable. So we're back now a couple of months later to see how she is.
Hopefully, it's looking better. Here's what it looked like when we very first saw her a couple of months ago. It really was sticking right out the bottom of her foot, and I thought it might be a struggle to get her healed. I can tell the block has come off because it's a few months since we've seen her, but I've no idea how her foot actually is because I didn't see her walking. Oh, it's looking better. Last time we saw her, there was a huge ulcer sticking out here, and we applied a block onto this foot to alleviate the pressure from here. It looks like it might still be raw under there though. Let's trim her and find out.
I'll be honest, I was told by a fellow hoof trimming professional that he doubted this cow would ever heal, especially without the use of a block the last time we saw her. So I'm desperately hoping that she has completely healed.
We need to be really careful, because imagine if we trimmed this up and went too deep and ended up causing a problem that has been fixed. Or not, let's find out. Well, what do you know? It has completely healed!
Although this nasty ulcer has completely healed, we still need to finish off the trim by modelling out that medial claw and just getting the lateral claw modelled as deeply as we possibly can to make sure that the weight stays off the pedal bone and that problem never comes back.
That is what you call a successful job. Happy as Larry, although that wasn't an easy fix. But it is fixed, and she's all the happier for it.
Problems like this cow's ulcer require persistence and determination, not only on my part but on the part of the farmer for keeping on giving this cow back to me so that we can treat her to the best of our abilities. When we first saw her, she was in a huge amount of pain. That ulcer sticking out the bottom of her foot was being stood on every single time she took a step. And as you can see, after the second trim, she was much more comfortable, but definitely not completely healed. After this third visit, I'm hugely enthusiastic, and it gives me a thirst to heal even more cows. We are extremely lucky to work in the business that we work in, and it's great to have farmers like this who keep giving us these cows back so that we can truly heal them.